Hi everybody and welcome to a Sunday sum up from my channel. My name is Rainer, this is Rainier Books. I'm going to tell you what I have read last week. As I said, I finished 2 books in the last week, and the first one that I finished was an ARC, an advanced reader's copy that I got from NetGalley and from the publisher Amazon Crossing. It was published on November 2021. Thanks very much for sending me that advanced reader's copy. The book is called The Easy Life in Kamusari by Shion Miura, and it was translated from the Japanese by Juliet Winters Carpenter. This book is about Yuki Hirano. He's a very young guy. He's about 18 or 19 years old. He has just finished high school in Yokohama. Yokohama is a city, if you're not familiar with Japan, it is a city that is east of Tokyo, and it has 3.7 million inhabitants itself, and it's almost like a suburb to Tokyo. Yokohama people will be very angry about me now, but it's grown together with Tokyo, and Tokyo has, as you probably know, more than 34 million people. So it's a vast area, it's a big area. And when I read some travel guides before I traveled to Japan for the very first time in my life in 2015. I had the honor to return in 2019. I hope to come back to Japan in one of the next years. When I traveled to Japan and I was reading the travel guides, they told me when you go to Tokyo, it is like going into the future of mankind, into the future of the world, with the technology, with the lights, with everything in that city. And it is partly really true. I was, in 2019, my daughter and I, we visited Gebukoro, and we saw how people park their bicycles. I didn't film at that time, but I found a video clip of how people park their bicycles in Tokyo. You gotta watch this.
For me, so what I do this is, all right, it's gonna grip the front wheel, it lifts up a little bit, then it's asking me to stand behind these yellow lines, which I'm gonna do over here. Then, actually, let me check to see if my wallet or any valuables are not over here. Okay, that's absolutely fine. And I'll press the green button. And then it goes down over there. And in about 14 seconds, it kind of like goes down, spins around, and it finds a parking space.
This is from Danny Cho's video channel, very popular video, 4.7 million views on YouTube. I give a link down below to Danny's videos. He makes great videos about Tokyo. This shows you that something that is absolutely not thinkable, not possible right now, at least here in Sweden or in Germany, to build things like this bicycle parking lot in the middle of town, that really Tokyo is somehow doing things, and the Japanese people, that are very future orientated. At the same time, we're dealing with a country that has a long history, and a longer history than many other countries in the world. Japanese culture, Japanese traditions are also very famous. And when we travel to Japan, we're not only traveling to see the modern part of the country, but also the ancient part of the country. And in the book, The Easy Life in Kamusari, you meet actually both. You have this young guy, let's call him a city slicker, like in the movie with Billy Crystal, who is 19 years old, 18 years old, and his parents sent him to a forestry program to Kamusari Mountains, somewhere in the Japanese mountains. There is no place like Mount Kamusari and no village called Kamusari in Japan. That was made up by the author. But there are places like that. There are villages like that, like Akaigawa or Nozawa Onsen, where you have mountainous regions and where you have a closer connection to nature. And it's also about the close connection to nature that this novel finally is about. Yuki is a greenhorn. He doesn't know anything. He comes to Kamusari. He's sent by his parents, more forced to go there than voluntarily. And he doesn't like to be there. He is a greenhorn. He does almost everything that he tries to do in forestry, where he's supposed to work for a year, is wrong. He makes big mistakes. He brings danger to other people, and he is sort of educated by the villagers. The villagers have a very strange accent. The villagers have also certain rules, and the villagers have also beliefs in nature and in the superiority of nature, in the godlike creation, maybe, if you want so, of nature. And that is something that Yuki is going to learn. The power of nature, the respect, and when the months go and the months pass and he gets more integrated into the village, he starts to appreciate where he is. And I can tell you that there's a sequel to the Kamosari book. The Easy Life in Kamosari was followed up by Kamosari Tales Told at Night that was published just in May of 2021. And I might go for that book because The Easy Life in Kamosari, which I read as an ARC, as I said, is a very easygoing, but more than that, also a deep novel, short novel, 200 pages, about our relationship to nature and modernism, about the gap that is there, about the things that we might have lost in city life that are still appreciated in other parts of Japan in this case. The author, Shion Miura, she was born in 1976. She's actually a very successful writer. Some of her books have become TV shows, some of her books have become films, and one of her novels that is not translated into English has even become a manga series. This is pleasant, this is meticulously well researched because there's a lot of references and the acknowledgements of the book to forestry literature and to forestry knowledge. So there's a lot of knowledge and work and forestry and descriptions about that are included in the book. The atmosphere of The Easy Life in Kamosari is fascinating in a way. I don't call this a 5-star read, even don't call it a 4-star read, but I call it a very strong 3-star read. That was the first book that I finished. The second book that I finished last week was also a work of translated literature. This being Elena Knows by the Argentinian author Claudia Pineiro, translated from the Spanish by Francis Riddle and published by Charco Press in July 2021. Charco Press, let me say one sentence about this publisher from Edinburgh in Scotland. It's a small publisher, it's not owned by Penguin yet. Charco is a small publisher, only publishing pocket books right now, until now I guess, and most of them, almost exclusively, are translations from South American authors. A lot of Argentinian authors, but also authors from Chile and from Uruguay and from Peru and from Colombia, even from Guatemala and Mexico. And I like the cover very much. That's beautiful artwork. Your Claudia Pineiro's Elena Knows in yellow also, which is my favorite color. I love yellow as a color. I love yellow books. Look at this one, Elena Knows by Claudia Pineiro. It's also a short novel, but it's a novel that you're not going to read so quickly. I didn't read it very quickly in one sitting. When I opened the book and came to the motto, that is, it's to my mother, it's dedicated to Pineiro's mother, but then you have two quotes here from an Austrian author that you might know, who has died many years ago, Thomas Bernhard, a very famous Austrian writer and playwright. He wrote, in Gargoyles, he wrote, "Now he understood her, who had lived beside him so many years and been loved but never understood. You were never truly together with one you loved until the person in question was dead and actually inside you." And the second Bernhard quote from "The forest is large and so is the darkness. Even a concrete building is nothing but a house of cards. It's just waiting for the right gust of wind." Two beautiful quotations, two very meaningful quotations, but two quotations by Bernhard, because it is Bernhard she quotes, that made me realize, okay, this is not going to be a very easy read for you. I read Bernhard when I studied German literature, and I had my problems with his plays, at least, that I read. So Claudia Pineiro herself, this book was shortlisted for the Booker in Translation in 2022. Didn't win, but it was nominated, it was on the shortlist. Claudia Pineiro herself, she was born in 1960 in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She's not only the country's third most translated author after the very, very famous Jorge Luis Borges and Julio Cortázar. She's also an activist. She's a feminist engaging in women's rights almost all of her adult life. She has written several crime novels, but crime novels never only for the purpose of like whodunit and giving us a very intriguing and interesting mystery, but books that always transported social content, questions of society that Pineiro wanted to discuss with us, her readers. From the beginning of Elena Knows, we are inside Elena's head and also inside Elena's body. This is a novel that circles around the protagonist for a few hours on one day in Buenos Aires, from the morning till somehow in the afternoon, only a few hours. It's almost real time that we are inside her head and inside her body. And Elena is very sick. She's 60 plus, maybe 62, 63 years old. I think it's said at a point in the novel, which I have forgotten. And she is sick of Parkinson. She has a very severe version of Parkinson's disease, which makes it impossible for her to control her walk, to control her speech, to control her saliva that is drooling outside of her mouth, even to control her urine. So urine is always coming inside of her clothes. She cannot control this. She cannot control her body. Someone else has control about her body. The sickness, the disease that she calls a whore, that she calls herself, has control about Elena's body. And I'm saying that because it gets important later on, because there's another topic of control and bodies. So what is Elena doing? She mourns her daughter Rita. Her daughter Rita, we don't know how old Rita is, but she might have been in her early 40s. Her daughter Rita is dead. That's what the police says, what the church says, what the institutions say. She has committed suicide. She went to a church on a rainy day and hanged herself. That's the official version. But Elena knows. Elena sabe. And this two words you will meet a lot in that book, about 40 or 50 times, I guess, through the whole book, which is also something that could be derived from Thomas Bernhard, because he was also a master of repetition of words. You have a lot of repetition in this book as well. You have always this short phrase, Elena knows, but you also have repetitions of places in Buenos Aires, back and forth all the time. So in these few hours of Elena's life, Elena has no control about her body. She has to take pills, and the chapters are headlined sometimes with the first or the second or the third pill of the day that she's taking to try to sort of regain a little control again about her body. Abortion plays a role, and here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Pineiro wrote this book, Elena Knows, in 2007, long before Roe versus Wade was taken away from the American people. 2 days ago, the Supreme Court, I call it the Trump Court in the United States, decided to take away the women's right to control her own bodies from the American people, from millions of American women. Mike Pence has already said that this is only the first step. The next step is we have to abolish abortion in the whole United States, because here we have the control of women's bodies. And we had Parkinson's disease as one example of someone who has not control of her body anymore, and what happens to that person. And we also have an abortion that did not happen, actually, that plays a very important role in this book. I'm not going to spoil here, because this would be a spoiler that would be not so good. But there's a scene in which the topic of abortion is discussed greatly and intensely. And there's no question where the author is standing. In Argentina, abortion was not legal. Abortion was illegal until December of 2020, when the Congress in Argentina, the parliament, decided that every woman in Argentina has the right to control her own body until week 14 of gestation. Any woman in Argentina, opposite to the United States now, any woman in Argentina can request the procedure of abortion, and doctors, they don't have to perform abortion if they don't like it or if they are not capable because of their conscience or whatever, but they have to recommend the patient to another doctor who would perform abortion. So Argentina is a long step ahead of the United States now, today, as of today, June 26, ladies and gentlemen. And this plays a role in Elena Knows. a great role actually also in Elena Knows. The whole plot is almost connected to this control of women's bodies. So you can read Elena Knows very well in this current discussion, the current sad and dark days in the United States. It's a very timely novel, and that's the reason is the decision of the Supreme Court in the United States. But nevertheless, it's very claustrophobic, since we're stuck in Elena's head and in Elena's body, which I would also say didn't make me give a 5-star and not even a 4-star, but also a good, very good 3.75 or something. For Elena Knows, it's a very important book. It's not the book that I would say I have enjoyed. I'm honest about that. But it's really a very timely one. Thanks very much for watching today. All of you who returned to my channel, thank you very much for watching. And those who watched for the first time and maybe liked what they saw and heard, please subscribe to my channel. You are helping me so much. Thanks and goodbye.